What's up, guys, and welcome to OneTake. I'm Gil, and I just saw Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. It's about 2:40 a.m., so I'm going to be as coherent as possible as I give you my raw, immediate reactions to having just seen this movie. I'll start off without any spoilers. I'll probably do that for a couple minutes, and then I'll give you fair warning before I dive deep into spoilers. And I'm going to spoil every major moment of this movie. I've also got my tech guy, Lun, off camera. He'll be chiming in.
Hey there.
Cool, because he has a lot of thoughts on this movie, too. Anyway, so jumping in. If you're like me, then you were thinking to yourself, before I go into this movie, I want to stay clean. I'm not going to watch any of the TV spots. I'm not going to look at the reviews, but somehow it's hard to avoid. And I saw that this movie had a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes, less than 60%. So I lowered my expectations going in, and that definitely helped. So one of my big fears about Rise of Skywalker is that repeatedly we've heard that the way they made this trilogy was pretty bizarre. They supposedly didn't have a 3-story arc planned out, or a 3-film arc planned out going into this. J.J. Abrams made the first movie, Force Awakens, handed the baton to Rian Johnson. Is that his name? Rian Johnson. And he made the second one, and then J.J. Abrams got the baton back. And so I was worried that this third movie would struggle to truly put a capper on the trilogy. And then on top of that, they decided to go a step further and make this the ending of, or a culmination of 9 movies. So, would it struggle to do all that? Would it be successful? And the answer is that my fears were, I would say, 100% realized. Alon, would you agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah. Basically, the movie very rapidly tries to set things up to give you the feeling that this is some kind of a climax to this long building story arc. And it actually succeeded to some degree. But overall, it just was not satisfying in that regard at all. Now, I don't want to say that it was all awful. I will say that having lowered my expectations, I did find some stuff to enjoy in this movie. Like, it's impossible to deny that having these characters, who I thought were pretty well established in Force Awakens, Rey, Finn, Poe, great characters. They were all separated in Last Jedi, and if you've seen any of the trailers, you know that for a good deal of this movie, they're all together. And it was fun having them together. I thought there were plenty of moments that were funny, especially between Finn and Poe. And it was funny, enjoyable. It was a good time. I would say for me, this felt less like a good movie and more like just going to a great Star Wars party.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I started with really low expectations as well. So the fact that I started at that point, there were enjoyable moments. I wasn't devastated because I already went in not expecting.
He was devastated.
Anything.
It was tears streaming down his face. What have you done to Star Wars?
Maybe after the other two, but this time they already brought my expectations down. So there were some cool moments. Some of the fight sequences are cool. I like the new droid.
Yeah. Just be careful. No spoilers yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the new droid was great. So if you're Adam, I know you're in the chat here. If you thought BB-8 was cute, if you thought Baby Yoda was cute, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Listen, it's not a spoiler. Everyone knows there's going to be a new droid in every new Star Wars.
So, yeah, like I said, undeniable. Having all those characters together was fun. It was a good time. But the character motivations didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. They also have these relationships that have been established in the previous movies that were interesting to watch them evolve. Again, without getting into spoilers, I thought they all went in kind of odd, unsatisfying directions. Some of the character arcs went in just bizarre directions. It felt almost like they were setting up stuff in this movie for future movies, even though it's meant to be a conclusion. So it felt like there were threads hanging at the end for no real reason. There's also a ton of fan service. And the fan service stuff, once you turn your brain off, was fun. But it also led me to kind of feel like I'm just counting down the seconds to see what's the next cameo going to be, what's the next fan servicey thing going to be, which kind of took me out of the moment and made me less emotionally connected to what was going on. But having said that, there were a handful of very powerful moments. a few of them. There were a few attempts that didn't work as well, but I thought there were a few pretty strong emotional moments, which I'll get into in spoilers. Like Lund mentioned, there was some good action, but it's just getting harder and harder for me to care about big CGI battles. There also wasn't any iconic lightsaber battles. The lightsaber fights almost felt like they didn't matter a whole lot. It was kind of like in Pirates of the Caribbean, where two characters would be fighting, and you're like, I know that this is not going to lead anywhere, really. They're just having a good time and just swinging swords around. Anyway, I don't know if I have a whole lot else to say before getting into spoilers, besides the movie was a fun mess. That's pretty much all I can say about it. It was a good time. It was like going to a party with some old friends and just enjoying Star Wars stuff. Oh, anything to add before we go into spoilers?
No. I mean, the fan service stuff, to me, it just felt so shoehorned in that it felt like they're, what's the opposite of servicing the fans?
I don't know. Torturing the fans?
Yeah, a little bit. Nah, that's an extreme, but I don't know. It just felt too forced.
Isn't it weird how I love shoehorns in real life? They serve a great purpose. But in any other context, shoehorn is not good. And yeah, shoehorn applies to a lot of stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
But I think we're ready for spoilers.
Go for it.
Spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I gotta make a graphic for the countdown next time.
All right, so I'm just going to go through some of the major moments in this movie, or some of the major aspects of the movie, and then I'm just going to go through my list of stuff I like and stuff I didn't like. Like I said, it's very late in the night right now. I'm very tired, so not going to be as coherent as I'd like. But anyway, let's talk about Kylo Ren and Rey's story arc. I thought their relationship in the first two movies was interesting, because Rey so badly wanted to rescue Kylo Ren from the dark side. And you could see, almost in reverse from previous movies, you have Luke, who's on the light side and almost feeling that pull to the dark side that he's fighting against. Kylo Ren, it was the opposite. He was on the dark side and he's trying to fight this temptation to go to the light side. I loved that. In this movie, he flips to the light side. He becomes good. And I really can't explain why. He has this lightsaber battle with Rey. She stabs him in the stomach. And that seems to have reset his brain. As soon as he gets up, he's good again. And in that moment, he gets a little visit from Han Solo, which I liked. It was, again, kind of a fan servicey moment. I have a suspicion that was maybe meant to be Leia, but because of the unfortunate passing of the actress who played her, which for some reason right now I can't remember her name. Carrie Fisher. They put Han Solo in there, which was nice, but I really cannot explain what motivated him to turn to the light side. I mean, there were definitely arguments presented to him by Rey to get him to flip, but they were no different, in my opinion, than the arguments that she threw at him in Force Awakens or Last Jedi. So what happened this time around to flip him around? Alon, do you have an answer for me?
No.
All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I found that very dissatisfying. It almost felt like his brain got reset, like C-3PO's did in the movie. Maybe they were trying to get us used to that idea. C-3PO has a brain reset. Okay, now the audience will buy it when Kylo Ren gets a brain reset. And then on the flip side of that, Rey is meant to be struggling with the dark side, right? She says she has this vision of her sitting on the Sith throne, and she's afraid that she's going to turn to the dark side. But for me to really buy that fear, I can't have it just said to me. I need it to be shown to me. And I don't think we ever really saw her strike at somebody out of anger or do something where you would say, wow, that was pretty dark. The closest we got is when she was trying to save Chewbacca, but, then she was afraid that she actually ended up killing him. But I wouldn't consider that a dark side moment. It was just I accidentally shot lightning out of my hand because I didn't know I had the ability to shoot lightning. Right?
Yeah. It's like, it's almost like they wanted to do something like they did with Anakin.
Right.
They did a much better job with Anakin showing the progression there. Like, he got angry, he snapped at people, like, he felt lured by the dark side. with Rey, it's just like, okay, she accidentally used some dark force
Right.
powers.
It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Anybody that gets powers has that problem. Cyclops had that problem. He's not a bad guy just because he opens his eyes and lasers shoot out. And you know it's saying something if you say that the Anakin story arc was handled better. So I don't know if you're aware of this. So people are not a fan of that prequel trilogy.
No, I'm aware, but I don't know after this one.
And then, so the culmination of the Rey Kylo Ren story arc is, it was almost like, did you ever see the Romeo plus Juliet?
Yeah.
The kind of modern day reboot of Romeo and Juliet. Spoilers for Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo plus Juliet.
Romeo plus. Well, this is spoilers even for the original
I saw
story.
that in school.
Me too.
Oh, nice.
And the moment where like Romeo thinks Juliet killed herself or died, but then it turns out she's alive, but then he killed himself, and it was so over the top, it was almost humorous. That I felt like I was watching that scene again here, because Rey dies, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Rey dies. And then Kylo Ren, I guess, gives her his life force, which brings her back to life. Then they kiss, and then he dies. When they kissed, everyone in our theater laughed. And then when he just smiles and then immediately dies, everyone in our theater laughed again. And I don't think that scene was meant to be funny, but just it was such a, I don't know, where was it? Why was it a romantic story arc? I didn't think it was going that way at all. I mean, there were hints at it. But I don't think it got to the point where a kiss was appropriate. And him dying just came off as funny. And I think the reason why is because what are the rules about Jedi dying? It feels like if a Jedi does something awesome, they die. It's like if I went to the gym and I finally set a PR, like I lifted as much as I could on bench, I'd be like, all right, it's time for me to die now. Let me just fade away. Like Luke in Last Jedi, he does his awesome like force projection thing and then dies. Now, at least in that movie, they sort of set it up where they were like, to force project, it's really hard to do. It's like tiring. So I figured, okay, he used up all his energy reserves. He had no mana left. But then in this movie, why did Rey die? Alon, why did she die? Because she fought really hard?
Yeah.
It's it just and then why did Leia die?
Yeah, I don't know. But you know what? When Rey was dead, that was actually a little disturbing. Like the way her lifeless body, like, really, like, seemed dead.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I thought the same thing. She looked like a corpse.
Yeah,
and I've seen corpses.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
Who
later.
hasn't?
But speaking of Leia, she should not have been in this movie. It was just so awkward every time she was on screen. It felt like someone had a Leia soundboard with a limited number of things they could say. And it would be like, Leia, how's it going? Yeah. It was just awkward. And I don't know if that's just me bringing in the baggage of, obviously we all know none of this was filmed for this movie. They took, if you're not familiar with what they did here, they basically took unused footage of Carrie Fisher from the previous movies. Sometimes they didn't CGI anything about her, I don't think. Sometimes they would change the background, they would change where she was. But I felt like you could tell. I mean, everything she said would be 3 or 4 words versus the last movie where she would give speeches. And I think she just shouldn't have been in the movie. It would have been better if they had her die off screen and maybe had a funeral, but it just didn't feel right to me that she was in this movie. Felt very awkward. Now, I will say that when Leia died and Chewbacca found out, that was one of the most powerful moments in this movie to me, because he just lost it. Not just because of Leia, but to me, what I felt like he was saying when he was like, he was like, I'm so sick and tired of this crap. Like Han Solo, Luke, everyone keeps dying. It was like he was mad at J.J. Abrams. He's like, why do you keep doing this to me? And that really worked for me. That was, I don't know, did it work for you as well as it worked for me?
I mean, Chewie has never done anything wrong in the Star Wars saga to me.
Yeah.
Everything he's done is spot on.
He's great. I loved, as much as I didn't, like, anytime a Jedi dies and just fades away after just doing a powerful thing, I just can't take it seriously.
I take that back a little bit. The way he got captured so easily was kind of dumb.
Yeah, and God. The fake out of like the thing exploded, he must be dead. No, I'm back again. The planet exploded, she must be dead. No, I'm back
How
again.
did she survive?
I guess she was on another ship.
Oh,
How did he
okay.
survive? Oh, I guess he was on another ship.
She was on another planet.
Stop doing that fake out. Just stop doing it.
Yeah.
I did not like the fake out.
Especially when you reveal it literally like 30 seconds later.
Yeah, it's just anyway, but I want to pepper in stuff I liked. So I mentioned earlier all the characters being together was great. I love the interactions between them. I mean, there was a lot of this movie that I just enjoyed. Like I could just sit back and enjoy what I was seeing. I guess I just keep saying the same one over again. All the characters being together and interacting. Now let's talk about Poe. So they introduced this love interest, and it just came out of nowhere. Nothing was established, but somehow it actually worked for me. And I think that was all thanks to Oscar Isaacs, the actor who plays Poe. He sold it. Like when his love interest, I don't remember the character's name. She looked like a Power Ranger.
Yeah.
I thought. But when she asked him to like run away with her, even though we've seen that a billion times, when he looked at her and he was like, "I can't leave this war," I got a little emotional. That worked for me. I think it was 100% thanks to him. I think somehow he transcended the writing in that moment because it did really just come out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Also, I'm so sick of the trope of the female character who wants to kill the main character but also loves the main character. We also saw this in Mandalorian episode 6 with that Twi'lek who showed up. I just don't need to see that character trope anymore. But again, Oscar Isaacs somehow made it work here. Let's talk about Finn. What was with all the he can kind of feel the Force stuff?
Yeah, he just felt like that was the right ship. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's just like, he just wants the Force.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, no, I have a feeling. He doesn't really have a feeling. He's just trying to convince everyone gradually he has the Force.
He was just like, oh, God, thank God that was the right ship. Do you think maybe, I'm going to try and piece this together, could this have potentially been a callback to Last Jedi? Because it felt like Last Jedi established this concept of anybody can get in touch with the Force. And this was them telling us, hey, we didn't forget about that.
Well, I think that the Force is something that's everywhere, right? And my understanding of the Force was you don't necessarily need to have the Force to feel it.
The midichlorians?
Yeah, that. Like, you know, I know that seemed like the direction they were heading when they had the kid with like the broomstick or whatever at the end of that. Which one was that?
Last Jedi.
Last Jedi. Yeah, but it seemed like this movie kind of just completely forgot about that. Right. So I don't know if this movie was trying to say that Finn might be able to have the Force like that kid. I think it's just showing that the Force is everywhere and can affect everybody in subtle ways.
Yeah.
Which Finn gets a feeling.
Right.
That's
and that actually
the
wasn't the only. There were a couple of instances. Greg's here. Welcome back, Greg. I feel like I haven't seen you here in a while. Greg, have you seen this movie yet? Because if not, you got to be careful. We're spoiling the hell out of it. Everything's getting spoiled right now. There was another moment with Finn where he talked about the Force. And this was actually a moment, I think you weren't as big a fan of it. Nice. Yeah, we just saw it about an hour ago. So the scene where Finn meets the other, that chick that used to be a stormtrooper. I don't think you liked that moment very much.
Nah.
I actually thought it was pretty uplifting when the two of them started to talk. And he's like, we're not the only ones. Okay, that was kind of lame. Like, obviously, you think you're the only stormtrooper that was ever like, I don't want to do this anymore. But when they talked about how there was a whole group of stormtroopers and they all kind of simultaneously decided not to fight, that I started to imagine that moment in my head. And that was another moment in this movie where I got a little emotional. And they did talk about the Force having maybe played a role in that. That kind of connected all of them, and they just all realized that we shouldn't be hurting these innocent people. And I like that idea.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of nice.
All right, nice. I won him over on something. But let's talk about that lady. I don't remember her name, but the other stormtrooper girl. At the end of the movie, she meets Lando, and she meets Lando, and they have a very bizarre conversation where she says, he asks her, "Where are you from?" And she says, "I don't know." And then kind of smiles at him, and he says, "Well, let's find out." Which was, I felt like he was hitting on her.
Yeah.
And that could not have been the intent, but that's what it felt like. And we're 5 minutes away from the end of the movie, and that's the note you wanted to end on?
It seemed like a senile old man's way of hitting on someone.
Yeah. It just felt creepy, and like that's the note that Lando goes out on. Oh no, tech guy. Fix the lights. What happened? Let's see. So we talked about Finn. We talked about Finn's new friend, which, yeah, the Lando ending there. All right, I'm just going to go into some stuff I liked. All right, we talked about Chewbacca, his reaction after Leia died. Again, I love that. Okay, here we go. One thing that to me was missing in Force Awakens and Last Jedi was the sense of adventure. If you go back to the prequel trilogy, which a lot I didn't like about the prequels, but one thing I did like is we saw so many different cultures, so many different environments. It felt like a big galaxy. In this movie, although the beginning of this movie felt like it was moving at a clip, like it felt like a montage of a bunch of crazy stuff, I did get a little bit of that sense of adventure back. When they saw that celebration going on with all the kites, I was like, all right, here we go. This is the stuff I wanted to see. This is the fun Star Wars stuff I wanted to see. So that was one thing I enjoyed about this movie. Seeing all the characters together. Oh, the little cone droid. Yeah. That guy was awesome.
Yeah, what was his name?
Cone droid, I think.
No.
Greg, Greg in the chat, this movie was the most rushed movie I've ever seen. No joke. Couldn't agree more. I guess we've been beating around the bush here. We've got to talk about Palpatine, the Emperor. So when we all heard that the Emperor was coming back, we were worried that it was just going to be shoehorned in as a way of, okay, we need this to be the culmination of 9 movies. How are we going to do it? Let's just take the old villain and bring him back. And I thought, you know what? I bet J.J. Abrams can find a way to do it in a clever way. And at first, the opening crawl, they say that Palpatine's back and he has this message of revenge he's sending out there. And I was like, you know what? Bold. They're not burying the lead. They're just saying he's back. But then when we see him, yeah, it was not done in any kind of clever way. He was basically a Marvel villain, totally underdeveloped, nothing interesting about him. And if you're wondering, how did he come back? Don't worry, The Hobbit is there to explain it to you. Why is he in this movie? I don't know. It felt like just a distracting celebrity cameo. But he literally is like, oh, yeah, the dark side, they got weird cloning stuff. And that was pretty much the explanation. And yeah, the opening 5 minutes of this movie, back to Greg's point, super rushed. Like Kylo's like going after that green triangle thing. And then he's like jumping over here, he's jumping over there. It's super rushed. And I mean, that's my complaint about most action movies these days. It's like, take a second and like let us feel something emotionally. Greg in the chat, in JJ we trust. That's how I felt. But not anymore, I have to say. Though to be honest, I don't think JJ's totally at fault here. I'm sure this was Kathleen Kennedy Studios telling him, like, you've got to wrap up 3 movies, but you've also got to wrap up 9 movies. I liked it. I didn't love episode 7. I mean, I haven't loved 7 or 8. I kind of liked both of them. I enjoyed 7. I haven't loved any of the new Star Wars movies, to be totally honest. Though I guess I'm a broken record here, but I enjoyed both of them. Like I think I said this earlier, but this movie, I had a good time with it, but it felt like just going to a Star Wars party with all the fan service. You see Chewie get his medal that he never got in the first movie. How that what's that lady's name? The one with the goggles.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know who you're talking
Starts
about.
with an M, I think. I don't know how she knew that Chewie never got the medal, but she gave him his medal. That was fun. There's all kinds of fun stuff like that in this movie. The Leia and Luke flashback. I mean, by that point in the movie, I kind of just gave up on this being a really substantial like work of art.
Maz Kanata.
I don't know how. Well, in the movie, Alun turned to me when she gave Chewie the medal, and he was like, "How did she know that he never got a medal?" It's like, because she saw Star Wars: A New Hope. Everyone saw that movie. Yeah, so by the time we got the flashback to young Luke and Leia training, I'd kind of given up on this movie being like a really serious work of art or anything. So I enjoyed seeing them. It was cool to see Luke as a young man again and see Leia as a young lady. Okay, here's another moment I liked. Where Rey is knocked down by Palpatine and she's struggling to get back up, and she looks up into the sky and she hears all the Jedi talking to her. She hears Yoda, she hears Obi-Wan, and in Force Awakens she gets a jumbled like Force image when she holds onto Luke's lightsaber, and you hear Obi-Wan say something like, "Rey, you've taken your first steps." And I think here you say that you hear him say it again, but you hear like the full sentence. When she heard all the Jedi speaking to her, and that she struggled to stand back up. Yeah, Greg in the chat, I heard Hayden Christensen's voice as well. I heard that. Wouldn't have mind if we heard Jar Jar Binks. That would have been nice. But yeah, we hear all those voices, and she stood up and she struggled. That moment worked for me, even though pretty much everything that surrounded it in that moment didn't work for me. Because I'm just so sick of the two powerful people fighting, and it's like two lasers shooting at each other, and then so Rey is like blocking the lightning with one lightsaber. When she brings out the other one, that's what allows her to win. And then again, because she did an awesome Jedi thing, she has to die after. I don't know. All that stuff didn't really work for me. Greg in the chat, if episode 8 was directed by JJ, this movie would have been so much better. JJ had to wrap up so many Rian Johnson plot points in such short time. It took away from his movie. Exactly, and I think that's part of why the movie was so rushed. JJ, it was like he was trying to establish stuff that he wished had been established prior to this movie so he could wrap it up in this movie. He was trying to artificially create the sense of where this is the big culmination of a trilogy. Super disappointing that there was no Anakin Force Ghost or Yoda or Obi-Wan. Yeah, actually, if you're going to do fan service, show us Obi-Wan. Show us Yoda again. I was actually hoping we would see Hayden Christensen, because I feel like he got a bad rap, after the... I mean, I guess he didn't do a great job in the prequels. It would have been nice to see him, though. Why not? Throw him in there.
I like this one.
A Baby Yoda. Exactly. You might as well throw Baby Yoda in there. They at least gave us baby somethings.
Those little birds.
The birds, yes, but also earlier in the movie, when they're at the kite party, Rey saw those little babies.
Oh, yeah.
Then she meets a little kid. That was nice.
The little birds are called porgs.
That's right, porgs. So let's see. Okay, Finn meeting the other stormtrooper. I liked that moment. As a whole, I liked how hopeful the movie was. It was nice.
Well, didn't Leia say to be optimistic?
Yeah, she did.
They're in the middle of a war. Come on, be optimistic, guys.
You're right. Actually, there was a funny response to
It
that.
was funny.
When she told him to be optimistic, he's like, yeah, you're not going to believe what's happening. It's great.
If you were leading an army, would you try to motivate them by saying, come on, guys, let's be optimistic here?
Yeah. I don't know. I hated they should not have put Leia in this movie. It was awkward and weird, and they shouldn't have done it. I don't get it. Greg in the chat, episode 3 was a great prequel. To be honest, way better than episode 1 and 2. Oh yeah, for sure. I think there's no question that episode 3 was the best of that trilogy. I mean, there was stuff I liked in the trilogy though. Pod racing was fun. Yeah, Greg, way too much Leia in this movie. Agreed. It was just, I understand why they wanted to put her in here, and I've heard people make excuses for it. They say this was obvious with all the stuff they set up in Last Jedi. You couldn't not bring her back. That's what they say. I'm sorry, but reality happens. Carrie Fisher passed away. She wasn't available for this movie. You shouldn't have forced her in. It was weird. Anyway. Oh, God. All right. Let me just go through my list of notes here from right after the movie. Yeah, the Jedi death rules. I've already talked about how I just don't understand the rules around Jedi dying. And so every time one of them dies, it just kind of throws me off. I don't really feel anything emotionally. Palpatine was boring. He just felt like a Marvel villain. Just one note, really nothing interesting behind him. Everything about him was confusing. All the robed people in his lair, was that just like a clone army, I guess? And also, just as a villain, I didn't really find myself afraid of this villain. They didn't really do any villainous things to our characters. I mean, they kidnapped Chewie, but that didn't really bother me because I thought he was dead for a second, and they did the whole death fake out thing. They destroyed a planet, I guess, but Star Wars sucks at destroying planets. Like, can you imagine what it would be like to actually destroy a planet and kill every single human being, an animal, every culture that's been developing for millennia? Millennia? Is that how you say plural?
Yeah, I think so.
Thousands of years. I mean, civilizations growing, falling, animals going extinct. You destroy all of that in the matter of seconds. And all you get is Poe being like, oh, really? Ah, damn.
Yeah, I think they did a much better job with that in the original trilogy. They blew up Leia's planet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, they're trying to... I liked how they showed in that one how, for them, it's just poof. They do it, it's gone. But you can see in Leia's reaction how much it really means.
Right.
In this one, it's, yeah, like you said, Poe's just like, oh, I cared about this one person on that planet.
Yeah, and the one consequence of that planet blowing up, the one personal consequence to us is that the Power Ranger died. But she didn't die. She was back at the end. How did she survive? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Greg in the chat, General Grievous is my favorite Star Wars villain. Greg, is he the one that has a bunch of arms and spins all the lightsabers? Yeah, he was awesome. I was also a fan. Oh, can you look up the name of the actor who played the Hobbit and played Charlie in Lost? Greg, why the hell didn't they elaborate on the crowd of hundreds of cultists behind Palpatine in the third act? Who were they? Exactly. If they had explored Palpatine a little bit more, maybe showed us, I mean, it feels silly to say, but his motivation, he was a nothing villain. There was nothing interesting about him, and it was just bizarre and totally underexplored.
Dominic Monaghan.
That's
Monaghan.
Right. I'm sorry, but Dominic Monaghan. Good actor. I like him. But the fact that he was in this movie and had so few lines, but still had a handful of lines, it was just distracting to me. Never bought the fact that Rey was kind of struggling with the dark side. Would have liked to have seen more there. It's an interesting idea. Oh yeah, Palpatine. You're my granddaughter. Who is his son or daughter? They kind of, does the Sith stuff just skip a generation?
Yeah, I also like how she just believes it immediately. Like,
well, I bought that. I mean with all the Force stuff, it's like with the Force, you always feel stuff.
She could feel she was a Palpatine.
Yeah, well, once she heard it, she could feel it. I buy that. I think that's established Force lore.
Yeah, I guess.
I think you should apologize so I can take a sip of water.
Nope.
No, you're not going to apologize?
No.
Yeah, it was also, I thought it was also funny when, what's his name? The bad guy? Adam Driver? Kylo Ren?
Yeah.
When he says, you're Palpatine's granddaughter. You're a Palpatine. Like, as if they had to spell it out for the audience. Like, you know what we're saying here. We're saying she's a Palpatine. And I'm sorry, but you don't have to do... This is one of the problems I have with the way a lot of filmmakers treat mystery nowadays. I think Damon Lindelof did this on Watchmen. They create these mysteries that don't need to be mysteries. Why does it have to be a twist that she's Palpatine's granddaughter? Like, it could be an interesting concept that she has to struggle with the fact that she comes from an evil bloodline. And does that mean that she has something inside her that shouldn't be there? And that she's going to have to struggle with potentially going to the dark side? That's an interesting idea. But because you made it a mystery, we can't really wrestle with that idea until you reveal it. And I think it's just kind of arbitrary to turn that into a mystery. And it feels like the only reason they set it up as a twist is because people go into Star Wars being like, all right, we need to have a lineage, parentage twist. We had one in the original trilogy. We had one in Force Awakens when you find out Kylo Ren is the offspring of Leia and Han Solo. It's a weird way of saying it, right? Offspring. Yeah. You just didn't need it. And yeah, weird. We already talked about my favorite moment of the movie with Lando telling the girl, let's find out. That was just bizarre. Greg in the chat, what was with her blowing up that ship? I thought that she killed Chewie and then it turns out she didn't. Was it an illusion by Kylo or something? Did I miss that? Yeah, that was probably the most hand-wavy part of the movie, I thought. Like, at least when the planet blew up, we didn't know if that Power Ranger lady was on planet. For all we knew, she was on a ship when that happened. But with Chewie, I mean, didn't we see him get on the ship and then it flew away?
Well, they cut away and then they cut back, but apparently they cut back to a completely different ship.
Yeah, okay.
I only saw one ship.
Yeah, when they cut away, there was a second ship we didn't see, and then it came back. Yeah, what was the point of that? The Stad 8 in the chat. The cult would have been cool to elaborate on. Yeah. Same as Knights of Ren and Captain Phasma. Exactly. Speaking of Knights of Ren, that was another weird side effect of this trilogy getting passed back and forth between different filmmakers. You had JJ introduce them briefly in Force Awakens, then they disappear. They don't show up at all in Last Jedi. Here they're back in full force, and it's distracting, and it's totally unexplored. If the Knights of Ren, I mean, it kind of sounds like a cult that's following Kylo. That's a cool idea. Mm-hmm. And actually, Kylo is treated as like the Sith Lord. We never see him do, I don't think in any of these movies, we never see him do any leadership stuff. We've never seen him give a villain speech to a crowd of cult followers or Knights of Ren. That would have been interesting to explore. But too late now, because he did a cool Jedi thing, which means he has to die. RageNot is back in the chat. What's up, OneTake crew? RageNot, what is up with you? Have you seen Last Jedi? Or not Last Jedi. What's the name of this movie?
Rise of Skywalker.
Have you seen Rise of Skywalker? Because if not, we're spoiling everything. Everything. By the way, the title. Oh, what's the title mean?
I mean, should I give away?
Yeah.
Like the way end?
We said spoilers. Spoilers.
Yeah,
how many
we're
times
jumping right to the way end here.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. I mean, apparently Rey decides to take on the Skywalker name because I guess she looked at Leia and Han Solo as her father and mother figures, but Han Solo's not a Skywalker.
No. She looked at the Force Ghost of Leia, and I guess it'd be weird if she. No, not Leia. Was it Leia at the end? Who did she see? Yeah, Leia and Luke.
Leia. No, it was Leia. Yeah, it was Leia and Luke.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What are you talking about?
No, because for them to be father and mother figures to her, that kind of means they're together, which is kind of weird.
Yeah,
I know that they were at one point for a split
Rage
second.
Not. I haven't seen Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker, but go ahead and spoil away. Here for the support. Thank you, as always, Rage Not. You are one of our most loyal supporters. And Greg, also. I don't want anybody to feel bad.
Yeah.
Greg, out of 10, what would you guys give it, though? Okay, we debated this right after the movie. Here's what we'll do. On the count of 3, Alun, well, let's both just say at the same time what the rating is. You're just going to stop on 3. That was my rating. Is that what you were going to do?
Nah, that's
all right.
Funny, though.
It'll be 1, 2, 3, and then you say your rating. I just got to think about it for a second. All right, I'm ready. 1, 2, 3.
5.8.
Wow. Oh, we're pretty close.
Not bad.
So Alun said 5.8. I'll give it a 6.1. I had a good time. I wasn't bored. There were a few pretty emotionally powerful moments. It was funny.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like I was bored a little more than you.
Yeah.
I mean, but I wasn't insanely bored. I was still into it.
Yeah.
Wondering what's gonna happen next.
I saw you laugh a few times.
Yeah. I mean, you make a 2-hour-long movie. There's you're gonna laugh at some point.
Yeah.
When the main characters die.
Yeah. Oh my God. You just reminded me. We already talked about it, but Kylo Ren dying should not have been funny, but everyone in the theater laughed. The Stad 8 in the chat. By the way, am I pronouncing your name right? I'm curious because I think I've seen you here before, and I want to get to know the people who join our chats.
Could be Ves Tad.
Ves Tad 8. That's Tad 8. I'm a fan of the yellow lightsaber. That was Leia's lightsaber, right?
Yeah, apparently.
I actually didn't mind that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was a surprise that she had all this Force and Jedi training.
Yeah. Something, I don't know, maybe it was just by that point I think I said this earlier, by that point in the movie, I'd kind of just given up on this being a really substantial piece of work, but I thought I enjoyed the flashback. It was a nostalgic, nice thing.
I'll say, now I kind of wish we did get some more movies back in the day of her actually training. That could have been cool, actually.
Yeah. It could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been cool. It would have also been cool if we saw Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Leia all together. That would have been cool too. The Stad Solo out of the blue was great. Yes. When I heard, "Hey kid," I was psyched. I was like, "Oh, it's Han Solo." I thought that was nice. I was glad we got to see him. I was wondering how they were going to explain it because he wasn't a Force ghost and he wasn't in touch with the Force or whatever. But I guess we're meant to assume that he was literally just a figment of Kylo's imagination. I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering if maybe, when you have the Force, it's hard to control at first. So maybe like when he's having this imagination, it's literally just creating itself in front
It's
of him.
more vivid than it would be for you or me.
He could probably learn to control it though.
No, he can't because he's dead now.
He probably could have learned to control. Well, I wonder if Rey could now bring him back to life, and then she dies again.
Yeah, that's what Alon was saying. Is that when Kylo gives his life power force to Rey, and she comes back to life, they can just kind of pass it back
for the rest of their lives. They
could
just
have
keep
a moment
alternating
together. But then he disappeared because he was like he was probably afraid that she was going to give him the life back.
Right.
So he was like, "I'm just going to fade away."
You know how you were saying you're not sure how the rules of a Jedi dying works. I'm not sure how the rules of like healing works.
Right.
Because like clearly he gave his life to her. Right.
Right.
So how about when she heals his like fatal wounds?
Well,
no, she doesn't.
I can
for like
explain
a
that.
second. She's like, "Oh," but then she's.
I
fine.
can explain that. Well, I just want to catch up here in the chat. Greg says I was thinking 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. Have to rewatch it. Agreed. I'd probably have to give it a rewatch to solidify my score on that. Moltak in the chat. I am mad about how they never finished Ezra and Ashoka's story. Your thoughts, Lun? Lun's Googling right now to help me out because I don't know who either of those people are. Isn't that from Star Wars Rebels?
Yeah.
One of the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I have not watched any of the Star Wars animated stuff, though I've heard Clone Wars was incredible. I heard Rebels was pretty good. Moltak, should I be watching Star Wars Rebels? Let me know. So the answer to your question, why couldn't, after Rey came back to life, why couldn't she simply heal Kylo Ren? I think the answer to that is that neither of them were suffering from a physical fatal wound.
I didn't ask that.
Didn't you?
No.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
You were like, why couldn't she force heal
the
him?
the fatal wound I was talking about was when she stabbed him with the lightsaber earlier, and then she healed him. So I'm wondering, like, that probably would have killed him if she left him there, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, my point is, she heals him,
right,
and like, it looks like it takes a little bit of energy out of her, but barely.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Surprised she didn't drop dead there.
Right.
She healed him. Wait, so what are you asking?
No, I'm just saying, like, I feel like the amount of energy you consume to do certain force powers doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, here, I can explain that though. Because she was here healing a physical wound. It's easy. I could do that, you know? At the end, he was healing not a physical wound, but like a magical wound, like a force wound.
Right.
She was sucked, her life force was sucked out of her. What was the word they kept saying? Like we're like a duplicitous force, the two of us. I forget. There was a word they kept using.
I don't know.
The stat in the chat, Clone Wars 2005 was great. Yeah, I've heard so many good things about it. I always just have a hard time getting interested in fill in the blank movies. Movies that take place in between things we've already seen. That's why Black Widow, I have a hard time getting excited for that. But I know so many people have told me to check out Clone Wars, so maybe I will. Greg in the chat, in the middle of the film, it said it's basically transferring life energy. Yeah, they do explain that. When she healed that snake monster, that's right. She said she used a bit of her life energy. It's a snake's fault. She hadn't wasted life energy on that. She probably had a little bit left at the end there.
So do they have a certain amount for their whole lives, or does it regenerate afterward? Like maybe by the end, the life energy she used on that snake has already regenerated.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
wish you could see. I wish in the movie they would show little like meters above every Jedi's head.
It's like the Sims have a little crystal above their head. You just see it slowly like draining of energy. I talked about how I feel like I've gone through like every note I had here. We talked about Star Wars destroying planets. It still bugs me. Even back in A New Hope, when they blow up Leia's home planet, I feel like it never gets enough. It never gets enough focus. You just destroyed an entire planet. The stat, I'd say it regenerates like Baby Yoda.
You know what? Baby Yoda, whenever he does use the Force, he has to sleep a lot.
That's true.
You know, I buy it there.
Yeah.
Rey's just like 2 seconds later. Yeah, let me heal some more creatures.
No, it wasn't 2 seconds later. You're being unfair.
I'm exaggerating, man.
Just because you didn't love it doesn't mean you're so binary. It's like I hate it or I love it. It's somewhere in between.
Well, you know what I love?
What?
Love Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda's great.
Where was Baby Yoda in this?
I know. He might be the only good part of no, it's not. I like Mandalorian. I like the first 3 episodes, and then I feel like it's been pretty awful. But I heard episode 7's pretty good. Yeah. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
I'm like 3/4 of the way through. So far, it's definitely better than previous.
Greg, I never thought choking someone could be so adorable until Baby Yoda.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's do. I feel like we've been too negative. Let's go favorite Baby Yoda moment.
That's not even in the movie, though.
It's in the universe. It's in the world.
All right. When he's drinking the soup.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. Although I do like when he was choking the dude.
When was he choking the dude?
That's in the new episode.
Oh, spoiler alert!
And it wasn't a dude, or was it?
Oh, okay, interesting.
See, so now you don't know.
My favorite part so far was when he looked at his hand because he thought he was the one who killed the robot, but really it was Mandalorian.
Yeah, that was great.
The stat says soup. I probably would have said soup if you hadn't already said it. Also, I didn't want to be a poser because I feel like everyone loves the soup scene.
I mean, you don't have that many memeable moments to choose from.
That's true.
Like, it's probably like four iconic scenes right now.
Yeah, true.
All right, which ones? You got the soup one?
What is it? Zip? What's that? Zip. I don't know. Let's see. Anything else? Anything else to say? The hand. Thank you, the Stad. I do. The hand one was a great choice when Baby Yoda looks at his hand.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this. Where do they go from here? Is there going to be an episode 10 of Star Wars? What happens next?
I mean, why not? You got these characters are still pretty fresh, you know? Like Rey hasn't done too much with the Force and her Jedi powers yet. I mean, I would watch more.
Oh, Greg, that was the zip thing was a Bill Burr reference. But I don't really listen to Bill Burr's stand-up, so I didn't get the reference.
Is that a reference to his stand-up, or did he say that in the episode?
Greg, never mind. You're not a real Bill Burr fan. Gatekeeping Bill Burr fandom. If you listen to his podcast, you'd get the reference. Didn't Bill Burr talk about how he's not really a Star Wars fan? I thought he kind of made fun of Star Wars, and it was sort of ironic that he actually ended up on the show. The Stad. LOL, sorry. He's great in the podcast and stand. Speaking of podcasts, by the way, if any of you are in this chat here and you haven't subscribed to the OneTake podcast, you're missing out. We have great conversation. I'm going to have my friend Jeremy on tomorrow to do a breakdown of Rise of Skywalker. And he's a big Star Wars fan, so I'm curious to see what he thought of it. Actually, I texted him earlier. He hasn't responded to me. I don't know. Maybe he's just so upset. Maybe he didn't like it too much.
Yeah, you know, I watched a video of Bill Burr talking about Star Wars. He said that he told Jon Favreau that he's not a fan of Star Wars, and Jon Favreau was like, "That's why you're perfect." I don't really follow the logic, but I mean, he's fine.
Yeah, it's funny.
It wasn't his fault.
Yeah,
it was a script.
I know. But future of Star Wars, Game of Thrones guys, they were supposed to make the next one. That's not happening. That got canceled.
Oh no.
Yeah, darn it. I was kind of curious to see what they were going to do with it. Like, were they going to cross over Game of Thrones and Star Wars? That would have been kind of cool.
Maybe it's revealed that they're in the same universe.
Right. What did you think about the horses, the space horses?
I mean, listen, I'm watching Star Wars. I want tech. I want spaceships. I want the things that don't have wheels, but they're still close to the ground.
Floaty things, speeders.
Speeders, yeah.
I actually like the horses because it made sense. They were like, disable the speeders. Like, we can't. They're not using speeders.
Yeah, but they
There's
could
a way around it.
They could have done the same thing with like some anti-tracking device.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. Maybe I should go to sleep now. Any final thoughts, Alon, or anybody in the chat? Closing thoughts on Rise of Skywalker and the Skywalker saga as a whole. Greg, I'd like to see Mandalorian run a few seasons over the next few years, then just let Star Wars die because there's no coming back. Well, that's depressing. But no, Star Wars will live on forever. Actually, I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are going to universally not be very satisfied with Rise of Skywalker. And then people didn't love Solo. So I don't know what's going to happen with Star Wars. I'm curious. I feel like they've really got to knock it out of the park with the next movie. I think it's got to be a reboot of some kind, even if it's just a soft reboot where it's bringing back a couple of the characters. But I don't know. I'm worried for Star Wars. I'm worried. Oh, yeah. The Stad brings up a good point. There's going to be the Ben Kenobi show. Going to be directed by Deborah Chow, who did episode 3 of The Mandalorian, which I was a fan of. So I have high hopes for that. She also directed episode 7, which I haven't watched yet, but I hear it's pretty good. Greg, Baby Yoda spinoff. All right, here's where I'm going to end things. I have a Baby Yoda theory. The Stad, I liked the entire trilogy, all of it except for the Canto Bit scene. Yes, that was the worst part of Last Jedi and the worst part of the trilogy. That's where they go to the casino planet.
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
Like we have to save the animals.
I know. He's a great director. I haven't seen Knives Out yet. Everyone tells me it's awesome. But he is above that. I don't know why that was in the movie. Or that weird Antonio Banderas. He was in
yeah.
What was with his
so
character?
Random.
So bizarre. What if season 5 of The Mandalorian, Baby Yoda's starting to grow up a little bit, starts to realize how powerful he is, gets a taste, for that power, and he goes bad. And then season 5 is all about stopping Baby Yoda. Kind of like in that movie Akira, or like in the movie Looper, where there's some young kid with like immense power, and then you just stop him, but it's a moral dilemma because he's just a kid, but he's so powerful.
Yeah, just keep in mind he's 50 years old and he still looks like a baby, so he won't really grow much.
That's true.
But evil Baby Yoda could be kind of funny.
Season 190 of Mandalorian, when Baby Yoda's like a teenager. I've revised my my theory.
Time jump we
could do.
Yeah,
right.
See, Greg is also saying
I'm
what
fading.
I said.
I'm starting to fade. All right, I think that's it. I think we can put a pin in it right there.
Yeah.
So time jump, that chisel. People love time jumps. Avengers did a time jump.
Silicon Valley did a time jump.
Oh my god, Silicon Valley. That finale. All right. Anyway, thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe so you get notified the next time we go live, and you can be part of the chat, be part of the fun. When you watch OneTake, you know what that means? What does it mean?
You're awesome.
It means you're awesome. But do you know how to be even more awesome?
Subscribe.
Exactly. You want to be like that kid at the end of Last Jedi that can move brooms with his mind? All you got to do is hit the subscribe button. And check out the OneTake podcast, where we get into more kind of conversational stuff.
Link in the description.
Link in the show notes. And Greg B, season 190, would put him about middle school age, so not really a teen. Good point. Thanks for fact checking me on that. The Stad, thanks for going live. You're welcome. Thanks for joining. I didn't know at 2:30 in the morning. I didn't know if anybody was going to join, but I'm glad a few folks did. Rage Not, before you sign off, what is your reaction to the new Tenet trailer? Looks awesome. Looks awesome. I actually thought I've watched it like 3 times today. I don't know exactly what's going on with that weird like time travel type stuff, but I'm super intrigued. I love Christopher Nolan. I didn't love Dunkirk. It just didn't work for me emotionally. I don't know. I didn't feel connected to it.
I prefer his sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big sci-fi nerd, and I just love how mysterious the trailer looks. Like you get some vibe of what's going on with them like falling up, all the weird time travel stuff. Looking forward to it. Looks awesome. So I think that's where we can wrap it up. So thank you for watching. Thanks for joining the live stream. Subscribe, and we'll talk again later. Have a good night. I don't know why I'm saluting people.